Going on, Falcon fans? Hold on just a minute. Let me get my screen fixed here. Hold on just a minute. All right, guys, what's going on? Sorry about that, everybody. This is your boy Ricundo coming back at you with another video. And just like the topic says, the off season is over. We're going to talk about some takeaways from this long off season that Atlanta Falcons had, and we'll talk about, are the expectations too high? I can tell you right now, my expectations are high for this team. We're going to get into it. I hope you guys are going to let me know what you think about it overall as well. But the season is here, guys. We had college football today. Was already upset. Top 10 FSU going down to Georgia Tech. So it's already that's football, right? You put stuff on paper and think that you're going to come out and dominate teams and things like that, but you got to go out and play the game on the field, and that's why you love football. So football is back. Worst game, we already seen that. So with that being said, guys, we're going to talk about some off-season takeaways for our Atlanta Falcons. And when you're looking at off-season takeaways, we're not going to go down every little piece that happened, through the off-season, but we already know, the highlights. The highlights is we hired a new coach. We went and got a quarterback. We drafted another quarterback. We got a new offense coordinator, new defensive coordinator. We brought in two highly free agents, highly touted free agents, on the defensive side of the ball. We got three top 10 picks. We got a top 5 offensive line. Grady Jarrett came back. AJ Terrell got paid. So when you look at all those different takeaways there, you like where the direction of this team going. You got Raheem Morris coming in, setting the tone for this team. How he has just raised everybody level of positivity and belief around the team, around the fan base as well. About what this team potentially could be, even nationally. You have a lot of people talking about this team and potential that it can have. So, the off season in itself, in my opinion, if you want to give it anything, you can give it a B plus. And the reason I'm giving only a B plus because, they kind of left everybody in the dark pretty much the whole offseason. I mean, if you would have told me that the Atlanta Falcons was coming in and they wasn't going to make any cuts, like we assumed they were going to make to create cap space and things like that, that they was going to draft a quarterback at number 8, that they was going to wait all the way to the inner training camp to sign AJ Terrell, that that they wasn't going to really address the defense until towards the end of the training camp that they did. So it was a lot of things that from off-season standpoint, I think it was unexpected, but at the same time, it was good. It was really good. Of some of the things that they did. So that's why you gotta love it. You gotta you gotta like the fact that how they handled their business this off season was they did it their own way, right? Of course they got scrutinized so much about the Michael Penix pick. Even from me, I was scrutinizing those guys, right? So you love that the Atlanta Falcons got their way of doing business with Coach Raheem, and you have to know that how he coached 13 years ago, it he want to do a different way this time, right? And I mean by that, he brought in a great coaching staff, and he brought in coaches where when you got one of your coaches that does well and his team starts to have success, you lose a coach, you can plug somebody in and you don't lose a beat. That's how he kind of built this coaching staff. You look at the coaches that he brought in, especially on the offensive side of the ball. If Zach Robinson is who we think he is, and he's a rising star and things like that, before long he's going to be a head coaching candidate. Then he's going to be out the door. So that's why you bring in guys that can learn the system and be right behind Zach Robinson. So you like the way Raheem built this coaching staff, and that's what I like about how it was an intent to everything that he did this off season. Him in the front office, um, just looking at the cap and how they managed the cap. We came out and said they could restructure so many different guys to create cap space, but they was mindful of that. And the only person they actually restructured was Chris Lindstrom. So you still got guys that that and you see how they did a Caleb McGarry contract, right? And how they did a Jesse Bates contract, and how they did a Kirk Cousins contract. A lot of those contracts, the guaranteed money is up front. So later on, down the road in the future, that money won't be tied up into future salary caps, and they can actually keep guys like a Bijan, like a Drake London, like a Kyle Pitts here coming up next year. So you love the way everything that they did. It's intentional and it's mindful the way they're going about doing their business. And as a fan base, and sometimes the national TV, national media, how they look at things, it's not how you know they want to do it, but that's why you gotta like it, because at the end of the day, those guys the ones that gotta deal with it. So if it doesn't work out, you know, they understand that their job is on the line, but they gotta do it their way. Everybody wanna do everything the same. You know, everybody was up in arms about going out and get Michael Penix after you paid Kirk Cousins $180 million. But you know, I would say now we got two good quarterbacks on the team, and you're not planning on picking high no time soon. It's just that simple. You know, um, not planning on picking high no time soon. So you could build a team around, and hopefully Kirk Cousins played really well here. What's going on, Paul? Hopefully Kirk Cousins played really well, really well, really well, right? But maybe, you know, he doesn't. You got a insurance policy right there. If he does play well, we got Michael Penix, in the wait in the shoot waiting. It's just that's the way it is. So, um, but from an off season, in my standpoint, it was really good. It was really good. I get a B plus, not an A, because we was all we was all lost, man. We didn't know what was going on, right? But when you look at the finished product before the season start, I think most of us is really satisfied and pleased with the product that we see, of this team, right? Now they got to finalize the 53-man roster. And like I said the other day, it's going to be an initial 53-man roster because they still get to look at other teams' cuts and start making transactions from there. So they will establish 53-man roster, but some of those guys on the back end still might not be safe. We can figure out who's going to be on that 16-man practice squad once they clear waivers and things like that, and they're going to start bringing some of those guys back. Um, so this week, these next 72 hours or so, it's going to be hectic for some of these, guys with their NFL career. Hopefully, they put enough good film on tape, maybe get picked up by another team. But, this is like I guess the gloomy part of the pro, NFL when you're looking at guys that, what's going on, Kevin? Looking at guys that just don't, make the team, and for some of these guys, this is it for them, right? They won't get picked up by another team. They won't come back on the practice squad, and their football career is over. So, that's why it's so important for those guys to get the opportunity, to go out and show, what they're capable of, And what brings me to my next topic. So I'm glad we're talking about, the 53-man roster. And let's talk about preseason, right? So obviously, if you guys watch the preseason, um, the Atlanta Falcons really didn't play none of their guys that they're going to be dependent um, on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, right? And that includes the second string as well. So, and basically, what Raheem Martin decided to do was really um, play guys that I was just talking about, guys that's trying to make the team, trying to put film on tape for other NFL, teams, and giving those guys opportunities. I mean, it's just that simple. I don't think it's a right or wrong way to go about preseason. I mean, because we do know that most of the time they're not, game planning and calling, figuring out, trying to figure out how to beat a team. They're just trying to get guys, ready for the season and things like that, to get the feel for the game. People want to get the first hit out the way, get knocked some rust off and things like that. But if you look at what Raheem Morris decided to do, and I went to two practices, and I'm pretty sure most practices were like this. And the intent was first and second string got a lot of snaps in practice. I mean, they got almost 85 to 90% of the snaps in practice. So Michael Penix, for an example, Michael Penix and um, Kirk Cousins, from what I seen, the only two practices I went, because of course it was only two open practice. But for what I seen from these two open practice, Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins took majority of the snaps in practice. Majority of them. I mean, they took a lot of snaps. And then the backups, they had like the last 6 or 7 or 8 minutes of practice um, to go out and show what they wanted. So those guys didn't get a lot of opportunities in practice to show what they was made of, because the first and second team took most of the snaps in practice. So for those guys to get opportunities to show what they can do, it was important for them to play a lot of snaps in the preseason game. And from what I seen, I think they did. I think that's was Raheem Morris' philosophy. And if you guys watched the press conference for yesterday, that's pretty much um, it's how he's going to do it as long as he's head coach for Atlanta Falcons. He liked the joint practices. He liked the opportunity to get the guys out there. He wanted a controlled environment to try to, limit injuries, not taking guys down and things like that. They got a lot of snaps though. So, you know, sometimes you have four quarterbacks and all four quarterbacks get snaps in practice. I'm telling you guys what I seen, and I think most of you guys can contest to this, is that the first and second team got a lot of snaps in practice. They did do the joint practice with the Miami Dolphins, 2 days of good practice going against another team. That scrimmage they did on Wednesday, before the preseason game, the last preseason game, you know, he mentioned they had like 107 snaps in that scrimmage. So they got a lot of reps. They got a lot of reps working on their game plans. It was in a controlled environment, something that he can blow the whistle, don't get hit the quarterback hit, don't go to the ground, trying to keep everybody healthy, in a way that they can be safe, right? Now, the question is, most people saying, well, if you old school, well, what about tackling and things like that? And you want to be able to get knock the rust off in the real game and things like that, the speed of the game. Hey, we don't know. We just have to see how it pans out. At the end of the day, you know, we will find out if this method that Raheem Morris used um, worked for the Atlanta Falcons. This really what it boils down to. Like again, I don't think it's a right or wrong way, because I don't think if you go look at a guy that didn't play none in the preseason and come out and could have won the MVP or the team went to the Super Bowl. You don't know, right? Then you got to like they played every game and then they sucked, to start the season, or they, you know, it will be interesting to see that Detroit Lions team that went 0-16. Um, how many games did they starters play in the preseason? Don't know, right? So things like that. You have to be able to put perspective. You got to do it your way, would make you comfortable. I mean, if you look at yesterday's preseason game, Jacksonville decided to play their starters. Um, you know, and pretty much try to play them to first half of the game and get those guys acclimated to and that's the way Peterson got to do. He's old school. That's the way he wanted to do his team. Um, Raheem Morris decided not to do that. Right, you got a guy like Andy Reid who had Patrick Mahomes out there, the Super Bowl champion quarterback out there getting some snaps. So, you know, is they right or is Raheem wrong? I'm not. We're not here really to say who's right and who's wrong in this. But my point is that you know the way they felt as a coaching staff in his entirety, and I don't think it was just Raheem Morris, putting his hammer down saying it's going to be this way. I think it was a collaboration, and I think they believe that the work that they got in these practices um, was beneficial. And even for a guy like Michael Penix, like I said, he took a lot of snaps this offseason. He really did. And, it was to the detriment of guys like Taylor Heineke and John Paddock because those guys did not get a lot of opportunities, but they did in preseason, right? They got all the snaps in preseason. That's just really what it boils down to. Um, so moving forward, we should just look at the Atlanta Falcons preseason is giving these guys on the back end of roster opportunity to make the 53-man roster, to make that practice squad, to put game film on camera for all the other 31 NFL teams around the league. That's really what we got to take away from it. So it was a boring ass preseason. Let's just be honest about it. Now we did see some good football from individual. If you're looking at individual guys, I thought Mutant played really well the whole entire preseason. Um, Not sure he's going to make the 53-man roster, but I definitely know he will be brought back on the 16-man practice squad unless he get plucked from another team. Um, I love what we saw from Nature and Brooks the last two preseason games. He's small in stature, but he's physical. He comes up and make plays. So I really like what we seen from Nature and Brooks, Chris Blair, and Casey Washington. I think both of those guys had a really good preseason all the way around. Um, we saw some flashes from our two rookies, Brandon Dorless and Ruper Ororo, in the Baltimore game. Not so much in the last game. Like I said, they was going up against the ones, but we did see flashes from both of those guys in the Baltimore game, Miami game. Um, JD Bertrand, I thought he was really solid all preseason as well. So the rookies that we wanted to see, we saw flashes from individual play from guys like that. I thought Kevin King looks like he's back. Right, yesterday they had him playing safety. In Miami game they had him playing a little bit of cornerback. He did not play in the Ravens game, but he did play yesterday in the Jacksonville game. They had him at safety, so his versatility, I think, is solidified him. It looked like he's 100% back from the 2 years of injuries that he missed. So D'Angelo Malone, he looked good in special teams. I didn't think he looked good, getting after the quarterback yesterday. So I don't know how that's going to affect his play, but he did look good, special teams, which really is what's going to get him on the team anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see about D'Angelo Malone. Now, my 53-man roster breakdown, I did not have a spot for him, so it just wasn't enough. Um, you know, Bradley and I, we saw, the great spin move he had yesterday to get a sack. Um, he flashed. Um, Efer, the other linebacker, he flashed as well. Damone Harris is another guy that just going to be on the outside looking in, play really well. But the preseason game that's what it's about. Those guys, you know, on the back end, just making flashes, trying to make this roster. And I thought, from an individual standpoint, we did see individual guys step up and make plays to make their case to make the 53-man roster, or even just coming back on the 16-man practice squad. So we will see a lot of these guys back. They've been in the culture with this team. A lot of these guys probably don't want to leave because it's been so exciting, and a lot of people feel like it, could really be something special this year. You heard Taylor Heineke said this is one of the best teams he's been on in his career. So, on paper, it's on paper, guys. So, take that with a grain of salt, right? But at the same time, um, these individuals that came out did their thing. So preseason in a whole, um, you know, not looking at the scoreboard, not really good football. If you look at the individual efforts from different guys, you like what you see. Um, I thought the secondary was physical, the entire preseason. The linebacker core was physical the entire preseason. And then we had flashes from guys on the defensive front, right? Like I said, you hats off to guys like Casey Washington, um, Chris Blair, Jace, Carlos, our running backs. It's going to be tough. One of those guys it just might not make the team. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see, once this 53-man roster, and like I said, this is the initial 53-man roster. So it could change, but Tuesday we'll get it and see how close I was, guys. Remember, I had 26 defenders, 24 offensive players, and our 3 specialists. So let's see how close I got. I picked 8 defensive linemen, so I'm really interested to see if the Falcons have the same sentiments I had. And once again, all 8 of those guys that I picked did not play in the preseason game yesterday. So either they already know that they're not going to make the team, or their spot solidified. It's just one of the two. So that's the way I'm looking at it. We'll have to see. Um, two of the guys would play, right? And that's our 2 rookies. That's Brandon Dorless and Roro. I'm pretty sure they safe. So 2 of the guys that was on that my 53-man roster did play, right? But the other 6 did not. So just throwing it out there. Like I said, I hate it when players really flash at the end. Yeah, like Natron Brooks. He really flashed at the end. I don't know if it was good enough, but he got an opportunity. That's really what you want from any player. When they get opportunity, they take advantage of it, and he did. He did. Like I said, Chris Blair, he did. I thought Mutant, he really did, right? That guy, you look all over the field, you saw him number 45. He just made every play. He was in every play. He did his thing. So yeah, just don't know if it's gonna be enough spots. I think only keep 4 inside linebackers. So he might be on outside looking in, but he's probably gonna come back on that 16-man practice squad. So we will just have to see, unless he get poached from another team, because he did put a lot of good film out there for the rest of the league to see. So and that's the way it is. As long as you get an opportunity, they get the Falcons. You have to thank the Falcons, because the Atlanta Falcons, gave you opportunity to go out there to show what you was able to do, and he was able to do that. All right, guys. The last topic I'm going to talk about today is the expectation. Expectation. Let's see here. You said Spencer Brown. Oh man, he really was good. He really was good. And so I think he solidified himself to a practice squad spot, definitely. 100% definitely. I think he will be back on the practice squad the way he ran the ball yesterday. And the week prior, he really flashed. You're right. I agree about Spencer Brown. Good observation on him. So guys, expectations, right? So personally, for me, for after looking at going through this whole off season, going through training camp, um, looking at the team on paper because we haven't really seen the guys out there. I have high expectations for this team. I really do, and because when I look at this team, it's hard for me to find a lot of holes on this team, especially when the additions of Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons. So when I look at this team, it's hard for me. It's really hard for me to find a lot of holes on this team. So my expectations are high, right? I told you guys I was going to do a win loss record for the season, but when I started to do it, being a Falcon homer, I only found two losses, so I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. Um, I started off. I did have Atlanta Falcons starting the season 1-2, right? So I got them beating Pittsburgh, and then I got them losing against the Eagles and the Chiefs. Both of those games are winning games, so I'm not saying that they can't beat those teams, but it's early in the season. I think it's going to take time for Atlanta Falcons to get going, get clicking, maybe. So that's why, um, I put losses there. But then when I looked at the rest of the schedule, man, like I couldn't find a definite team that I thought the Atlanta Falcons was couldn't beat. I just couldn't. So it's crazy, and it's so unrealistic to say the Atlanta Falcons lose two games this season because I just don't see that happening. But when I look at this roster, look at this schedule, I can't see a team that I felt was just so much better than Atlanta Falcons. If like I said, if you take away the Eagles and the Chiefs, where um maybe on paper they're just as good, you know, and those are two losses that I have, but I think we beat the Saints, we beat the Buccaneers, I think we beat the Panthers, I think we can beat the Seahawks. I think we can beat the Buccaneers again. I think we can beat the Cowboys at home. I think we beat the Saints again. I think we can beat the Broncos. The Chargers, we're at home with those guys. Kirk Cousins going back to Minnesota. I think we can beat those guys with Sam Darnold. The Raiders with Gardner Minshew, I think we can beat those guys. The Giants at home against Daniel Jones. The Commanders with rookie quarterback and Jaden Daniels, and then the Panthers again at home. So I honestly, guys, it was hard. It was really difficult for me to pick losses for this team. You know, um, and that's just that's not really realistic. It could happen. You don't know what the expectation is going to be, but it was noted that the Atlanta Falcons had one of the easiest schedules in the league. And looking at you know um, the breakdown, I feel we can go 6-0 in the division. So those 6 wins right there, right off the bat, um, I think we're going to beat Arthur Smith the first game of the season. I do believe that. The next two games are going to be tough. Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football against the Eagles and the Chiefs back to back. Um, Cowboys game is going to be interesting. We'll see how that pans out, but it's at home. I like our chances in our stadium. Um, the Chargers with Justin Herbert, I think that's going to be an interesting game for us. With Joe Harbaugh being the coach, we'll see how they look. That's week 13, so that's later in the season. I think by then the Atlanta Falcons will be, have their legs and they'll be rolling. They're going to be the team that they are by that time of the season. So um, the expectations are high, guys. And I'm just going to say this. I think the expectation should be playoffs for the Atlanta Falcons, right? It should be the playoffs. Without a doubt, Atlanta Falcons should win the NFC South. They should host a playoff game. And then from there, we'll see where all the chips fall, right? Because then we get in uncharted waters, right? We get with Kirk Cousins being able to try to prove himself, to have better postseason success. Raheem Morris, first time head coach in the postseason, trying to prove that he can do it. We got a first time offensive coordinator, first time defensive coordinator. So now we're going to, starting to get in uncharted waters when you get to the playoffs. But you know, that should be the goal. That should be our goal. Michael says he's scanning the waiver wire for quarterback 3. Yeah, I think so. Taylor Heineke is going to be interesting. I think they're going to keep him. I know there's a report out there saying that they could use him as trade bait, which that does not seem far fetched. His $4 million cap hit this year. Teams quarterback go down, they might need a veteran quarterback like Taylor Heineke. So maybe, but like I said, Taylor Harville, yeah, he did, and I don't know how much benefit that he actually bring to that quarterback room. It's not like he's he has a lot of good quarterback knowledge that he could provide to Kirk Cousins. Um, so I agree, but I still think they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. And if they don't keep 3, that's going to help guys like a D'Angelo Malone, like a Damone Harris, um, like a mutant maybe, if at linebacker, somebody like that. We'll just have to see, but they do keep 3. I think Taylor's going to be the guy, and we'll just have to see how it all plays out. We'll see. We'll see here soon in the next couple of days. So, um, but the expectations is really high for me. I'm really interested to see what you guys think about that. Um, please put your comments in. If you're coming in late, if you haven't watched the show, you watch it as a recording. Please put your comments in. Let you know your expectations for this Atlanta Falcon team. Um, Also, guys, please hit the like button so more people can go out, and share this throughout the whole YouTube universe, and make sure that we get more input on these expectations. What you thought about the offseason overall, with your takeaways, you know, your take on Raheem Morris, philosophy on the preseason. I think it's interesting. Get more snaps in practice, get more snaps and joint practices. He even mentioned they probably do 2 joint practices moving forward, just to kill the monotony going against the guys every day. But even more, try to minimize the risk of injury. Right? Even though Taylor, you know, Rondale Moore went down, in practice in Miami. Um, and that's going to happen. What they say, 100% injury rate in the NFL. So, just a matter of time. So, you know, try to mitigate it as much as you can. And so, your thoughts on that? Raheem Morris, philosophy on the preseason, and then your expectations. Where do you see the Falcons win-loss record? Um, I was so ridiculous. I didn't even want to do it because I got Atlanta Falcons win losing 2 games. And if they do that, man, they going to the Super Bowl. So, and I don't know if I'm really, really, really ready to say that just yet. Um, but I do love this team. I love the makeup of this team. I really do. I mean, from top to bottom, I love the veteran quarterback. I love the the offensive line. You know, how much continuity these guys got. I love our 2-headed monster running back. I love the different skill sets we have at wide receiver position. Um, I love we got a unicorn in Kyle Pitts. Um, I love that the offense we're running is really beneficial for our skill players that we have. Um, I love that Grady Jarrett's back. You know, playing alongside David Hummer-Yada. I love that we got Matthew Judon. I love our 2 safety tandem with Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. Um, I love our linebacker room that we have even with the young JD Bertrand, I love that. Um, I just I just love everything about this team. So I mean, I don't know if I've ever been this more excited about a season, and can't wait till to get it started. I really can't. Um, if these guys can play like we think they can, it's going to be a really exciting season for us. Not saying we're going to win it all, but we get to the tournament, host a playoff game, and then let's see what happens. That's what I think about this Atlanta Falcons team this year. Those are my expectations. Definitely want to hear from you guys. Had to come out and do a quick video here on a Saturday, um, just to close it out, the off season, the preseason, before next week, and we get into you know all it takes, you know, keys to victory. You know, we're gonna definitely coming back on Tuesday to talk about the 50-man roster, initial 50-man roster. Wednesday, probably talk about the keys to victory. Um, Actually, next week, let me take that back. Next week is not game week, right? So um, we'll probably get into some other topics because that's the week after. So we'll definitely come back to talk about the 50-man roster, of course, but we won't talk about keys to victory next week because we got it's an extra week there. Keep forgetting we only got 3 preseason games, like 4. Um, so we will get into it, guys. So just stand by. We're gonna get this thing rolling. I know you guys are excited. I'm excited. But guess what? Football already back. Next week, upcoming week, we actually got college football all weekend. So it's ready. It's time. Everybody get on. If you haven't if you haven't did your vacations by now, you gotta tell your significant others you're gonna have to wait. They're gonna have to wait until later on, to after football season, right? And hopefully, if you're a Falcon fan, it's gonna have to be after sometime in February, right? Because we might be playing in the Super Bowl. That's what I'm thinking about. So, guys, that's all I had today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please leave your likes, comments, hit the like button, share this throughout the YouTube universe, and let everybody come in and give me their comments as well. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.